Hi, I'm Devin Dean, Content Director here at ProjectManager.com. Giving feedback to your project team members whenever good or bad behavior is exhibited is a healthy thing to do for your project. Look, your project team members want to know how they're going, and it's up to you, it's your responsibility as a project manager to let them know how they're going on a regular basis. It's the dysfunctional project teams that allow or put up with that bad behavior in that individual or the whole project team, which causes that project to degrade in its performance over time. If you're a sports team, the coach or the teammates on that team wouldn't put up with less than top performance from themselves or the rest of the team members. Why should you as a project manager running a multi-million-dollar project put up with that behavior? You're not running a social soccer league here, you're delivering a project for your client. So make sure that you are giving that feedback to your team members on a regular basis. Now, how do you give that feedback? Well, that's the subject of today's whiteboard session. I'm going to take you through the steps that I use when I'm providing the feedback on constructive criticism on the team members when maybe they don't do something so well as complimenting them and helping them enhance good behavior and spread that to the rest of the team. It's a really straightforward principle. The important thing to remember is that when you're giving that feedback, you got to give it to them straight. First thing I do when giving feedback to a team member is call them aside and take them into a private room, or take them aside, take them out for a coffee, get them isolated away from the rest of the office, away from the noise of the project team. Call them in and say, look, Sally, the purpose of me talking to you today is I want to give you some feedback on, and then it's feedback on whatever it is. So if it's a deliverable they were doing or a task they were performing, be very, very specific about what you want to give that feedback on. Okay? Don't talk in general terms. Don't use rated language and saying, oh, I think it was okay. Be very specific about what you want to give them feedback on. Next thing, when you say, look, I want to give you feedback on, let's say, that document that you wrote, that business requirements document, the next thing you want to do is you want to ask them how they think they did. Let them give you their assessment of the performance on that deliverable. Hey, Sally, how do you think you did on those business requirements document? It's really interesting. When you open that question up to your team members, if they're often the worst critic out of them all, and they'll give you some items where they think they could have done better. If you've got an example where they didn't do a good job and they're not seeing what they could have done better, then that's the opportunity for you to go in for that next question, which is, well, why do you think you did that way? Sally, you said to me that you didn't think you did such a great job on those business requirements document. Why do you think that was? Get them to think back about their process of going through and producing that deliverable for you, and let them reflect on the things that they didn't do so well, okay? Make sure you're taking note of that either mentally or at least on a piece of paper, because you will go back and drill in those details a little bit better. Once they tell you how they think they did, then that's the opportunity for you to tell them how you think they did. So look, Sally, as an example, look, Sally, I'll agree with you. That wasn't your top performance, your top deliverable in those business requirements document. I don't think you went into enough detail on your current state of those requirements to help the user understand why they needed to change their business processes. Okay? Be very specific on the item that you think needs curtailing or addressing. And once again, don't talk in general terms. Be very, very specific about what you want to see improved. The next thing is you ask them what their take on that is. A lot of times a team member, if they think they did a great, stellar job, and you'd think a little bit otherwise, they won't necessarily see it the way you see it. It's important for you to ask them, what do you think about that? You're giving them some feedback. It may shock them a bit, so give them the opportunity to digest what you've just said and reflect back and tell you what they think on that. In many cases, they will agree with you and say, yes, you know what, you're right, Devin, I didn't do a great job and I rushed the current state process of my business requirements document. Right? I didn't have enough interviews with the business users, as an example. You know, they'll tell you a bit more about why they didn't do such a stellar job. Now, at that point, if they're on that train, if they're going down that path, start reinforcing it so that they can understand what they can do better next time. Okay? So, for example, well, that's the next question. What do you do better next time? Right? Okay? So you ask them, hey, what could you have done better next time in that situation? The example we're talking about, Sally would say, well, look, you know what, I'll allow more time to go and ask the business users some questions about their current state process. Or, you know what, I didn't really talk to the right people, and I knew that at the time, but time pressure was pushing me to get the document done. Next time, I'll raise my hand and I'll say, look, I'm not talking to the right people, I need to talk to different people, right? So ask them what they could have done better next time, and then ask them what else they could have done, right? There's usually a few different things they could have done differently. Get them to think about those things, write them down so that they remember them for the next time they're delivering a similar task or a similar deliverable for you on a different project or maybe the same project. Now, if they didn't take accountability for that bad behavior or that bad outcome, now you've got a little bit of a tougher job, right? You need to actually question that, okay? So you're looking for them to take accountability, so that means they'll take ownership of the feedback that you're giving them, and they'll change, they'll do better next time. If they're not taking accountability, now you've actually got to question that again. Just make sure, well, ask them again. That's what I do. Look, what do you think about what I've just said? And if Sally comes back and says, look, Devin, I think you're absolutely wrong. You had too much time pressure on me. I wasn't given the right people to talk to get the business requirements done. They'll throw up a whole cloud of excuses, right? Let them vent a little bit. Ask them again. Hey, Sally, I don't think it was your best effort for these reasons. What's your take on that? So ask them again. Right? Let Sally reflect back on that. Obviously, you're pressing the issue as a project manager. You're not entirely happy with what they're doing. Hopefully, that'll get the message through to them saying, okay, maybe I could have done a better job. I'll take some accountability. And if that's the case, they take that accountability. Ask them their take. Just like we did up here. And if they take that accountability, move over here, and then you can go into the whole constructive sort of process of helping them understand what they could have done better next time. If they don't take that accountability, you go down to the next level and say, look, thank you. Acknowledge their resistance, acknowledge they're not going to come to the party here on this particular feedback session. So say, look, thank you very much. I can clearly see that you're not taking ownership of the deliverable or the task or the behavior that you want to improve. Fill in the blank there. And then just say, thank you for your time. I'll take it from here. So acknowledge that they're not going to take accountability, and then take it from there, right? And what does that mean? Well, it could mean a series of things. You could either then talk to their manager, who might have seconded them to the project team. You might have to start performance management. You might take that deliverable off them because you're giving them feedback to help them improve the performance. They're not taking that on. That's going to tell you that the final outcome that you're wanting to get is not going to be the best product. So maybe it's better to change that person off the team. There's a series of things that you as a project manager will have to reflect on and make some judgment calls on how to handle that situation. But ultimately, if they're not in a receptive state to hear that feedback, look, they're not looking to improve themselves. And, to be honest, on my project teams, that's the thing that I certainly won't tolerate on any of my team members, is people who aren't open to improving themselves and becoming better people and better professionals at what they're doing. My aim is that after today's lesson, you can apply the different steps and techniques that I've communicated in the whiteboard session. The most important thing to remember is when you're giving feedback, you just give it straight. For other project management tips and tricks, and to try out our software, come sign up at projectmanager.com.